Good evening and welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, I was wondering, very often we talk about, and I get lots of letters saying, what should I bring? What should I bring? What money should I bring? This should I bring? What that should I bring? What tools should I bring? What clothes should I bring? What health insurance should I bring? And it seems to me that maybe that we should really do a video on the 5 things that, and there's a lot more than 5, but 5 things that you should leave behind when you come to the Philippines. So, what's the first thing that you should leave behind? Sarcasm. So, it may well be that you are beautifully eloquent, that you are extremely intelligent and articulate, and can wax lyrical about all of those things that are happening in front of you in such a way as to just bring a kind of a spoken literacy to the scene. So, and I suffer this myself and had to learn this very, very quickly, because it formed a lot of how I talk. Well, so sarcasm, we're not talking about something which is wounding to someone. I suppose you think that's a good job, do you? No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about when someone says, we're a little bit late for dinner, and you respond, don't worry about me, I'll be all right. I may starve to death, I may just be a skeleton when you get here, but do your best not to be more than 3 hours late. You know, the more benign kind of sarcasm. Because let me tell you, it's almost like you're on a computer that doesn't have a sarcasm app. Maybe you understand computer speak. So fairly all of us are familiar with apps. You need an app to do this, you need an app to do that, you need an app to do an app. The Filipinos don't have the sarcasm app. You're wasting your time. You may come out with something that's so beautifully crafted as to bring tears to the eyes of a professional writer. And the average Filipino will not even hear it. So leave it behind and learn to speak properly. What's the next thing? The next thing, I think, is very closely, it's the brother or sister to sarcasm. It's the look. Someone says, do you mind if I go first? Not at all. Go right ahead. I've got all the time in the world. The look. You can leave that behind. The eyes to the ceiling. I'm doing my best. Is that okay? Go ahead, you're on a roll. The look. Leave it behind. What else? Your wristwatch. Now there's an awful lot of talk about Filipino time, and even Filipinos talk about Filipino time. What Filipinos don't realize is that Filipino time is universal, it's international. Some people do not have the keep themselves on time app. They just don't think that way. Time is not their master. Time is not anybody's master. It's how you view it. And if you come to the Philippines, time does not have the same godlike status in everybody's mind. The carpenter that we had today was supposed to be here at 8 o'clock, and he did his best and he got here by 9 o'clock. It doesn't have the same urgency. It's one of the small things. It's perhaps one of what George Carlin used to call the small stuff. And if you're coming to the Philippines, you shouldn't sweat it. So, if someone does take a little time to get to you, they will come eventually. Because you will have learned certain phrases which are very, what can I say, they're prevalent in the Philippines, such as, wait a moment, soon, we'll be there soon. Past, present and future are not very high on the list here. So if you say, did you do that phone call? Did you make that phone call? They may say yes. Now yes, to that, in answer to that question, yes would be present time indicating a past action. Sorry, it's not the same here. If someone says yes, it may mean that I intend to do that in the next day or so. Give you an idea, I put an order in for something at a hardware store and it still hasn't come. That was a year ago. Okay, so leave your wristwatch behind. You might want to leave your calendar behind as well, but I won't go into that, okay? So, the next thing I think you should leave behind, and I think this is very important, because it's a piece of clothing, quote unquote, that most expats bring when they come to the Philippines. Because they come to the Philippines on the premise that they are coming from a superior, advanced first world country. And as soon as they get on the plane, I don't know quite what happens, but it seems as if they get on the plane, and as the plane flies away towards paradise, they actually suffer amnesia about what they're leaving. Now, for many expats, let's say that most are not leaving, even though it is a very big reason for why expats, foreigners generally, come to the Philippines as a choice of somewhere to stay for their lives. And that's the financial thing of they can make their pension stretch 2 or 3 times its value, whereas in America or in the UK they couldn't even make it go round. But let's leave that one behind and just say, leave your teacher's hat behind. Because when you come here, you're going to have a lot of stuff to learn. So you haven't got any time to be a teacher. Okay? And every time that you elect yourself to teach somebody something, it usually is something that belongs back in the old country. Okay? So if you're coming and you're going to change everybody, it's not going to happen. And once you leave that teacher's hat behind, it leaves room for you to be a student. Now, what's to learn in the Philippines? You might be able to learn how to be happy. And think that one through. You might be able to learn how to be happy. Because I bet that you're coming for happiness, not to teach other people how wonderful it is in the place that you just ran away from. So leave the teacher's hat behind. Which brings us on to the last thing that I think you should leave behind. And that is everything that you think you know about happiness. Now, this is a giant step, going back to the fairy tales of my childhood. You're going to need 7-league boots to get through this one. The Filipinos know how to be happy. This has to be an indisputable fact, because everywhere that you go, people smile at you. And if you walk along in any street, certainly in the province, this is where I live in the province, which is quite laid back. And if I walk in Talibon and a young woman coming towards me smiles at me, I don't think automatically that she obviously wants to call her mother to turn the bed sheets down so that she can do the thing with me. I don't think that. I think she's just smiling, because it's something that Filipinos do. You can walk along and you can receive more smiles in, I always say more smiles per mile, but actually if you go out and in a small town like Talibon, lots of people will smile at you. And it's because basically they are happy with what they have. And here's where the expat glitch for thinking comes in. Most expats think that if you live in a third world country, you must actually be quite miserable because you have such a wretched, poverty-stricken life. They think that if you, what happiness could anybody have if they are hard up, poverty-stricken as far as any American or British is concerned, and you have 5 kids to support. There's something there for you to learn. And even though we help people who have, as one woman said when we helped her to finish her house, we called that the skeleton house if you've looked at that video, and she said to Beth, I had lost all hope of ever finishing our house. But they had 7 children, and they actually got along. They had a good life in their estimation, even though compared to most expats, most foreigners, it would be unbelievably wretched. They find a degree of happiness which I think is beyond what Westerners find. They live in a fairly benign climate. They can get by. They have a sense of family, they have a sense of community, and they have a sense of sharing. This is crucial to the way of life in the Philippines. They share what they have. We just gave 1,000 pesos worth, thanks to the generosity of Tita, Manang Tita, pledged 1,000 pesos a month to the blind man. And it's quite possible that if he kept all of that to himself and didn't share his good fortune, he might well be able to live on that for his food. We took him rice and we took him a box full of coffee, canned goods, all stuff like that. But I bet that he will share some of that. Now the cynical will say, well, he's blind, they'll probably come in and just take it from him. I choose not to believe that. And maybe that's another thing that you should leave behind, and that is your sense of disbelieving how something can be. And just look at the way that it is and try to work out how it is without your smart thinking cap. Well, that's all for me. That was the 5 things. Turned out to be 6, didn't it? But then, you know me. I hope you found this useful. Think about how you're going to think when you get here, and leave some of that sophisticated way of judging everything behind, or at least put it on a shelf somewhere so that you can send for it later. Bye for now. This is a foreigner in the Philippines.